found an old man in the back. I think we should keep him separate from the others for questioning.
A strange request. And why do you think this old man should be segregated?
I'm not sure, Commander. After speaking with him, I just think we should question him away from the others. I agree, Commander. After speaking with the old man, I think we should question him away from the others.
Very well. The Admiral is probably too busy to bother with this old man anyway. Take him to solitary confinement for interrogation. Report back to me if you learn anything.
What I did was wrong. Very wrong.
You deserve to be locked up in the cell for disobeying orders.
Yes, I deserve to be locked up for disobeying orders. What just happened? What am I doing in here?
Ask me what game series to play next, and my answer will always be Knights of the Old Republic. Of course, the next logical question would be, do I need to be familiar with the Star Wars saga to understand what's going on? And the answer is no. This series of games is very self-contained and is set more than 3,000 years before the mainline Star Wars movies. If you're looking into trying out a new RPG or just here to find out more about the game and its mechanics without too many spoilers, then this video is for you. Today we're going to be going over Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 and their MMO follow-up, The Old Republic.
Good to see you up instead of thrashing about in your sleep. You must have been having one hell of a nightmare.
The original game was developed by BioWare and published by LucasArts. The game was released in 2003, and thanks to the Odyssey engine that the game runs on, it looks gorgeous even to this day. The textures are still very sharp and the lighting is spectacular. The eyes and the mouths are all individually rigged, giving this great sense of life to the characters. Remember, this was before Half-Life 2 revolutionized graphics.
Exactly how you expect. Didn't think this would be complete without a giant pachinko machine.
Many games were really bland in comparison.
Hurry up, Frosty. We ain't got all day.
Don't you have work to do?
Everybody's waiting on you.
Oh my god.
The combat in the game is based on Dungeons & Dragons' D20 system. Basically what that means is your weapons don't do a locked amount of damage, but rather the damage is dependent on a roll. A weapon can do minimum and a maximum amount of damage. For example, a weapon dealing 1 to 6 damage is obviously inferior to the roll dealing 2 to 6 damage, because the minimum damage will always be 2. However, if a weapon does 1 to 7 damage, it may look better on paper compared to the 1 to 6, but in reality there is no guarantee that you will roll a 7 all that often. The combat in the game is round-based. You'll be selecting what types of attacks you want your character to perform, and let the characters play out their combat animations. Of course, to spice things up, there are other factors at play, such as what classes you're playing, what skills and feats you have, as well as your equipment and the usables. Before combat initiates, the game will pause. This will give you time to select what attacks you want your character to perform. This is actually really important, as it can be a deciding life or death factor. Would you rather spend an extra grenade to wipe out all the enemies at once, or try your luck and engage combat without using any usables like health packs or stims? While for many this type of combat system may be dated, it's surprisingly entertaining, especially later down the game when you gain more and more combat options. Let's run a quick combat demonstration. Some guy told me to meet him in the middle of the Tatooine desert. Nothing suspicious. So I get there and... I couldn't find any way to talk myself out of it, so fighting it is then. There was just me and my 2 companions against 7 mercenaries spread throughout. I open up by putting a stun on them, as well as a general wounding cast, and charge right in. To cover their flanks, I set my companions to take the ones on the right and on my left. I'm fairly confident in carve statistics, so I give him a general set of attacks. My HK droid has an instant stun ability, which is better than using grenades, as it doesn't take nearly as much time to initiate. I open up with that and give him a general set of attacks. Let's see how it plays out. If my characters have any trouble, I'll put some shields and medpacks into the rotation. Oh hey, it worked. And here's the loot. Where this game shines is the story. At a closer look, it follows all the story beats of the original trilogy, but not in this kind of way. In some cases, the game even pokes fun at it on occasion.
I don't believe this. You're one of the soldiers with the Republic fleet, aren't you? Yes, I'm sure of it. How did you end up racing for these swoop gangs?
This is a BioWare game, so the dialogue options are expected. However, this time around there is a dark side and a light side meter. Generosity and altruism lead to the light side, while selfish and violent actions will lead the player's character to the dark side, which will alter the character's appearance, turning their eyes yellow and their skin pale. Don't do dark side, kids. It's not healthy. Almost every character you interact with has their own backstory, motives, and personality traits. You really do feel like you're talking to real people who have flaws and concerns.
Here, I've got 50 credits, a down payment. That should buy me some time, right?
Sorry, you're out of time. Now it's all or nothing. Davik can't have people not paying his debts.
But I don't have that much. How can I give you credits I don't have?
Now I just can't but talk about how great the presentation is. Gone are the beaten to death rebellions and empires, and come the Sith and the Republic. Gone are the boys in white, and come the boys in chrome. Honestly, this is a great breather from the recycled designs we keep getting these days. Though the character designs are clearly inspired by the material that preceded it. Technology is still more or less the same, but there are still plenty of hints that it's ancient compared to what we see in the movies. The Sith and the Republic ships are nowhere as large as the Imperial Star Destroyers as seen in the movies, and the Protocol and Astromech droids are big and clunky, with this almost steampunk look to them. The Tusken Raiders have much larger breathing apparatuses. The droids in the prequels had a robotic but smooth movement to them, while here it's almost like they're operated by clockwork. There will be a fair bit of planets to visit, and each one has its own distinct presentation, color palette, music. Oh yeah, the music. The series has among the best video game soundtracks I've ever heard. Just listen to this. Anyways, while this game is very good, getting it to run these days is very hard. Unless you have an Xbox, of course, which is backwards compatible. The PlayStation never got a release, so unless you got an Xbox, you gotta do some adjustments to get the game to run, like downloading flawless widescreen, for example. This game will take some troubleshooting to get it to run on modern systems, so that's currently the game's biggest downside. Although the story is wrapped up nicely by the end of the first game, this did not stop a sequel being hit into production almost right away. At the time, BioWare wanted to focus working on its own IP, which would later become Mass Effect, and recommended Obsidian Entertainment to handle the sequel, partly due to them having experience with the game engine. But like many legendary games released between the year 2000 and 2005, development was rough and was abruptly cut short as Obsidian realized they had to ship the game earlier than expected. This, however, did not stop Obsidian from releasing yet another great KOTOR game, as in many of the gameplay aspects, improvements were made across the board. The first thing I want to touch upon is the atmosphere. It's, spooky. The first game was your typical Star Wars adventure. Yeah, it had a few dark moments, but this second entry can easily be mistaken for a horror game, judging it from its first few hours.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Hell, I even had a feeling that I was playing a Resident Evil game just from the first level. In fact, let me add some Resident Evil music in here for a sec. You explore this decaying station where everyone is seemingly dead from all the malfunctioning droids. Nothing seems to work and you meet a few shady characters who neither you nor your character seem to trust.
Nice outfit. What, you miners change regulation uniforms while I've been in here?
The villains fit the bill too. We got the Mummy and No-Face, also known as Darth Sion and Darth Nihilus. Honestly, for me, they're the biggest comedy relief, because the story is about two disabled Sith Lords. No-Face here has a thing for constantly consuming worlds, so essentially your average eating disorder. He's also on his final stages of oral cancer, which is why he sounds like this.
I don't know, I didn't read the whole Wikipedia entry, but the good news is that what he has is highly treatable, with radiation first and, if necessary, chemotherapy.
Disgusting. Unounce of seasoning, dry, horrible texture. Doesn't feel like a meatloaf was made today, let me tell you.
The first game had a crafting table, where you could upgrade your weapons and armor to a limited extent. By that I mean, there was no variation between the upgrades. Say for example you wanted to upgrade a weapon. You put it into the bench and if it has a slot, there's only one upgrade you can put into it and no other. In the Old Republic 2 there is more than one type of upgrade, and a lot more room for experimentation. Some upgrades now have downsides and upsides, so you have to make the choice where to make the sacrifices. Furthermore, a lab station now exists. This allows you to create utility items such as medpacks and various combat enhancements. If there are items you don't like, you can always break them down and make more useful items instead. For me personally, the crafting system was the biggest overhaul and the most meaningful one. Some other improvements were in the minigames. The first game had Pazak, which is the Star Wars equivalent of Blackjack or 21. It's fine, but it was never for me. I was more about the swoop races, which is the archaic version of a pod race. Anyway, the racetracks are really good in the second game. I went ahead and got the best time at all the available locations. You know how the Mandalorian and the Clone Wars TV show constantly mentioned the Mando Jedi War? Well, those games take place shortly after that, and the second game even has some quests to unite the Mandalorians. Tradition and honor is at its peak for them, so of course I wanted to see what they're made of. So I went in for a few rounds of hand-to-hand combat.
You choose to fight again. Now face a real Mandalorian warrior. Tagrin, what are your terms? Just fist and foot like you fought with Davros. Nothing else. Tagrin chooses to fight hand to hand. Remember, no weapons allowed, and absolutely no use of your force.
I feel like I should be in the Matrix. As expected, new planets and abilities were added, enriching but not quite harming the existing sandbox. Due to development issues, a large portion of content was cut from the game. However, since most of it was left inside the game files, modders quickly got to work, and after many years of development, the restored content mod was released, bringing back most of what was cut from the original release. If you're playing the PC release of the game, I highly recommend getting the Restart Content mod, as it's mostly bug-free and further increases the scale of the game. Unlike its predecessor, the Old Republic 2 is very easy to run, thanks to a handful of updates released in 2015. This game is compatible with modern resolutions and is practically void of any issues. Due to the game's success, a sequel was all but assured. However, the golden age for Star Wars games was now truly over. Between 2007 and 2019, only 2 Star Wars single-player games were released, that being the Star Wars The Force Unleashed series of games. This was mostly due to LucasArts' restructuring. A lot of Star Wars games that we never even heard of were scrapped during their pre-production phase during that era. Some a bit later than that, but that's not a story LucasArts would tell you. Instead, on October 21st, 2008, Star Wars The Old Republic was announced, an online MMO to succeed both Knights of the Old Republic and Star Wars Galaxies.
We are setting out to fight the same war we fought many times before. But the outcome will be different. Because we are different. Like the most powerful predators, the Empire has grown, evolved, learned. We are not the same Empire our enemies faced in the past. No longer do we ignore the strength of those who aren't human or Sith. No longer do we ignore the wisdom of those without the Force. The Empire held itself back before, but no longer. Now, the Republic will face the true strength of the Empire. Now, they will face you!
Your actions have made you a living legend, after all. Certainty of victory inspires confidence. Hearing that you are out there fighting the same fight they are will undoubtedly instill that confidence in our troops.
What do you want me to say, exactly?
The game features 8 different classes, and each of the 8 classes has a 3-act storyline that progresses as the character levels up. That's right, the game has 8 unique campaign experiences for you to try out, not counting the expansions of course. Different classes favor different styles of gameplay, and the game features extensive customization options. Fully voiced dialogue, companion characters, and dialogue options similar to other BioWare's role-playing games. Players can either join the Republic or the Sith, but players may possess a morality at any point along the light and dark spectrum.
Would you like to execute the traitor, or should I?
I say we kill him together.
I fully agree.
Oh yeah, fun fact about the voice acting in this game. Star Wars The Old Republic is officially recognized by Guinness World Records as the largest entertainment voiceover project ever, with over 200,000 voice lines of recorded dialogue and a million more on the way.
Welcome to Dromond Cass.
Moff Lorman.
It's Minister Lorman now.
Really? I figured your career was over after you lost the Ascendant Spear.
Sounds like you know each other.
Lorman and I have a little history.
It's Minister Lorman.
This was also during the release, by the way. I think the number of voice lines has now doubled.
It's Minister Lorman! Minister Lorman!
The content scale is pretty robust. If combined, the previous KOTOR games have about 10 or so planets to explore, while the Old Republic has an entire galaxy at your disposal. Since the Old Republic is an MMO, it comes with all the benefits. Fun and massive PvP to play with randoms or your friends and your guild buddies.
Alright, we've captured a pylon now, so me and you are going to run this way.
Raids that take careful planning and proper team composition.
And you land back on the platform, okay? Then if he jumps...
in the middle.
Huh?
And I need to keep him in the middle.
Yeah, and try to keep it in the middle, yeah. And when he jumps on the range, he got in range.
Oh, fuck.
Yep.
So close.
These never get old in any MMO, really.
I'm healing Volk at the minute like fuck, because he's taking some serious damage, but I'll get you, don't I?
Of course he's taking some serious damage.
What the fuck's happening with Volk?
I don't know, he's taking some serious fucking healing.
He's not the tank, that's why.
Guilds and their social events, these can really chew down on your spare time, like it did with me. I should have been making videos.
It's a proper lightsaber duel, isn't it? Well,
yeah.
One's a vibra, really, but...
Yeah, we only need the dual fates playing, you know? Cora!
Ha! Gotcha.
Speaking of which, I should talk more about the community, and what a better way to start than to talk about Reddit. The swtor Reddit is pretty fun. Here is me showing off my main Sith character to the community, and it got pretty popular. Right until the thread got locked because I apparently violated the community guidelines. But it's okay. Here's another post where I didn't violate community guidelines. This is made by me. It's essentially me and my guildmates in Star Wars inspired poster. It got pretty big too. For the second game, modding is pretty active, and for the MMO, YouTubers like swtor still make content covering the game. There are also plenty of online guides for the best character builds and raids. But yeah, this kind of fun comes with a price tag. MMOs are expensive to keep running, so what's the deal with swtor? Well, in short, the game has a free-to-play model. Base story content is all free, as well as a few expansions. However, if you want to experience the endgame content, you have to subscribe at least once. This will enable you to progress higher in your rank and the ability to obtain and equip endgame gear. As a result, you'll be accepted into content like operations. But before you do that, let's get into the downsides of swtor. While it's definitely one of the better Star Wars experiences out there, it does have a few negatives. First of all, the engine is old, which means if some insane action is going on the screen, no i7 or RTX cards will save you. The performance will suffer. Next up is the story content. BioWare seems to focus on the story content more than on the multiplayer content, which would have been understandable if the story content wasn't so mind-numbingly easy. This point is brought up all the time on the forums. Basically, to be more welcoming to the newer players, the story content was heavily nerfed. All you have to do to pass it is set your companion to heal mode, and there you go. The companion will out-heal all the damage that the enemy deals. This was done to welcome newer players into the game, but for most it did the opposite. As a result, when the newer players began hitting the endgame, they suddenly got hit with the difficulty curve. Oh, you want to play operations or master flashpoints? Well, you gotta get the correct gear first. Oh, you got the gear? But did you set up your abilities for the best optimized rotation to do the most amount of damage? Instead of making people learn how to properly adapt to their class and learn what their skills do along the way, the game just lets players win. Until it doesn't. In the end, most people quit the game after they finished a few campaigns, since most of them don't want to put up with learning what everything does suddenly. The game gave them no reason to do it during the first 20 or so hours of them playing the story, so why would they do it now? The last point is the future. This is an MMO, which automatically means that this game has a timer on it. Once the game stops making money, the updates will come to a halt and the game will shut down. It's still making money now, and as of late 2019, the game has almost reached $1 billion in profit, which is 5 times its initial budget. So the game is profitable, but the question is for how much longer. Now, would I recommend The Old Republic? If you're a Star Wars fan, then absolutely yes. The story is worth it on its own. If you're an MMO fan and want to break from World of Warcraft, then sure, the presentation and the music alone should impress. And the endgame content can be interesting. However, if you're new to Star Wars or just want to try out a new RPG that you've never played before, then the first 2 KOTOR games are worth giving a go. There is definitely a lot of fun to be gained from these classics. The MMO is optional in my opinion, and if you want closure for the main storyline of the first 2 games, then read the Revan novel. It's pretty good. Originally this video ended here, but in the months of me making this video, new rumors have surfaced that a new KOTOR game may be in development. Whether it's a sequel or a remake of the existing games is unknown. On top of that, EA apparently lost the Star Wars exclusivity license, which means that the floodgates for new Star Wars games are now finally open. I personally want Empire at War 2, but to each his own, I guess. Now, will KOTOR 3 ever be made? Probably not. The main reason is that the story of Revan is already resolved in the books and the games. Sure, they can retell the story in the interactive media that is video games, but most Star Wars fans already know how the story will unfold. I, for one, still hope that there is more to come from this series. And hey, you finally made it to the end of the video. Thanks for stopping by, it really means a lot to me. More to come soon. Until next time, everyone.